Hello and welcome to this British Psychological Society audio interview. I'm Wendy Barnaby and with me is Dr. Tom Farsides, lecturer in social psychology at the University of Sussex.
Hello.
Tom, we're going to be talking about altruism, which is a really interesting thing, isn't it? Because we all think we know what an altruist is.
Well, it's different things for different people, inevitably. As a psychologist, what I'm most interested in is people caring about the positive welfare of somebody else. One of the ways I often describe it is think about aggression. When you have aggressive fantasies or aggressive thoughts, or you behave aggressively, you identify those things by some sort of goal of the other person being hurt in some way. That's what you're trying to do when you're being aggressive, even in your fantasies or imagination. When you're being altruistic, from my point of view, what you're trying to do is you're trying to help somebody else. You're trying to improve their welfare as you understand it, which may not be the same as they understand it.
But there are downsides, aren't there? I mean, as you point out, some people can be so keen on helping other people that they can lose their own identity and sort of lose track of what they're trying to do.
I think that's exactly right, and I think it's one of the key questions in the psychology of altruism. To what extent is it good or bad for the person being altruistic or attempting to be altruistic? And there is mixed literature on this, partly because they're using the terms in different ways. By and large, if we do things that we enjoy doing and want to do, and particularly if we're successful at them, then it's good for our psychological well-being, and that includes altruism. If you want to be a good parent to your children and you devote a lot of attention to it and they turn into nice adults, then that's going to be good for you. If your children are very demanding, or if there's lots of other demands on you and you focus solely on the outcome of your children, much of which is out of your control, then that may well be bad for you. So people that try and deal with other problems by serving others, that probably isn't very good for your well-being, particularly if it gets very difficult or particularly if they're taking advantage of you. But the key is, what are you trying to do and why? If what you want to do is help other people because you think that's a valuable thing among all the other goals that you have, that's probably a healthy thing. If you can only hold back the demons by trying to be useful to somebody else and they're exploiting you, that's probably a bad thing.
Exploiting, and you may be exploiting other people. I mean, if you're so fixated on helping a particular group of people, you may be quite willing to exploit a different group of people in order to help the people that you want to help.
The example that is often raised is that of the good Nazi. So a good Nazi, in literature anyway, is somebody who genuinely thinks passionately about the welfare of his or her country and their ideology, and wants to serve the fatherland and the Führer, wants to be a good citizen as he or she understands the term, and is very selfless and gives up all sorts of things to further this goal on behalf of the folk that they care about. But of course history shows that that can be accompanied by terrible costs to other people. So although I do genuinely think that altruism can be a wonderful thing, and I would like most of us to care more about it than we do in our day-to-day lives and professionally, it's not an unambiguous good. It depends whose welfare we're acting on behalf of or concerned about, and what we're willing to do to pursue it. So altruism is neither intrinsically good nor bad. It has costs and benefits for various parties.
Is being altruistic one of the most important things we can be?
It's undecided yet. In what circumstances is it helpful to be altruistic and to whom? But it's also not the only important thing. It's certainly not the only important virtue. There are various other virtues that we can have. But even if you're committed to the idea of altruism being a good thing, well, we've already covered one thing. Altruism towards some people may mean nasty behaviour towards others, so altruism itself isn't enough. But even if we concentrate solely on being kind or improving the welfare of another person, then wisdom and perseverance and discretion and tact, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that will enable you to better or worse aid their welfare. So just as they may not know what's in their best interest, you may not know what's in their best interest. So having some sense of what is in their best interest is useful. And having some sort of perseverance. One of the things that is important is understanding that there may be costs involved in what you're doing and being willing and able to incur those costs. The example I often give with this is as an adult male, if I see a young girl crying in the street, I know that if I go up to her, some other passerby may accuse me of behaving inappropriately, and if I want to help that girl, if her welfare is most in my mind, then I have to think, is it in her best interest that I approach her versus somebody else? And if I do think it's in her interest for me to approach, then I have to be willing to take the risk and incur the consequences if they turn out as they may do. So there's a whole raft of things that effective altruists need to have if they're going to be effective. But the key point for those of us with the ability to be altruistic is, do we want to be altruistic? To whom do we want to be altruistic? And to what extent do we want to be altruistic? And it all boils down to the question, what sort of a person do I want to be? I was running yesterday, topless, I apologise to your listeners, and I was abused, verbally abused by a young boy who made some unkind comments about my physique. And before I could resist, I responded, "Nice person you are." And what I was hoping to do was to get him to look into himself and think, what sort of a person do I want to be? And there's lots of answers to that question, and I don't know what the best answer is. Maybe you want to be rich and famous. Maybe you want to have a legacy of being a nice person and making the world slightly better for other people. But it's a question that deserves asking, I think.
Tom, thank you very much.